You're listening to RetRead Podcast. I'm Anna.
I'm Serge, and we're here to talk about books we've read.
Hope you enjoy. What up, Serge?
Hey, Anna. How's it going?
Really great. Just came back from the Canadian Rockies.
Oh, wow. That was the vacation we both needed. And I finally got the chance to read The Tempest, like I've been promising for the last 2 months. Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that first, right, Anna?
Yeah, because it does tie back to Ski Weekend for those who don't remember.
The main character of Ski Weekend, if you don't recall, is Ariel. And Ariel is also the name of one of the main characters in The Tempest. She actually mentions that in the book. And she and her best guy friend have a little thing together where they have this elaborate joke about how she has the same name as Ariel from The Tempest. It's a Shakespearean play, obviously, for those of you who don't know. It's actually probably one of his more famous ones, and I guess I've been remiss in not having read or watched it performed up until this point in my life. However, I've done it now, and wow, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely up there for me as one of the best ones. Wonderfully written, definitely deserving of a reread just to get all those quotes and try to really understand the meaning behind a lot of the stuff. You know, Shakespeare's known for the flowery language, and this is no different than a lot of his other plays in that regard. But behind the flowery language, there's also a lot of deeper meanings, and definitely want to go back for a reread to get all the other themes that I may have missed. In terms of similarities with Ski Weekend, there's a couple of themes that run through the play that are also present in Ski Weekend. For example, fratricide is definitely present there and is in Ski Weekend as well. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't watched our Ski Weekend episode. And also elaborate plots. The whole idea of The Tempest is predicated on this elaborate plot that somehow, actually magically, pun intended, falls into place. However, in Ski Weekend, there's an elaborate plot that in fact completely falls apart, as you might expect, because it is far too elaborate for anybody to expect it to reasonably work out. So, Anna, I believe you also read something akin to The Tempest.
I read a modern retelling of The Tempest called Rose&Poe by Jack Todd. It's going to be published October 17th of 2017. Keep your eyes out for that.
Now, I understand that you actually have not read or seen the original Tempest.
That is correct.
Okay, but I have just done that, but I did not read Rose&Poe, but I have read The Tempest. So this is kind of interesting.
Well, there's no fratricide in Rose&Poe.
Really? Well, there isn't any in The Tempest either. As luck would have it, Prospero prevents it from happening, even though he himself also a little bit incites it.
Well, where's the fratricide in The Tempest? Who is...
So Alonso is the king of Naples, and his brother Sebastian, prompted by Prospero's brother, to try to work together with him to kill the king and claim his kingdom, because they think that the king had just married off his daughter to Tunisia. They think that the king's son is dead, so as long as his daughter doesn't find out and the son is still dead, then the brother can take the throne as long as the king dies. This is this elaborate plot after they're shipwrecked by The Tempest. Yeah, and that's the other similarity, right? The big similarity with Ski Weekend is Ski Weekend brings all these people together because of a storm and an elaborate plot. And it's the same exact thing in The Tempest. There's a storm that is also part of an elaborate plot to bring all these people together. There's just a little bit of a larger cast of characters than in Ski Weekend, and the scope is much larger. But there are a couple of similar themes that run through both. Perhaps not even enough to have noticed it, except that R.L. Stine purposefully brings it up with the Ariel reference. And then that kind of brings that to mind. The fratricide, you said, did not occur in your book, but is there anything akin to that plot that I just described?
Oh, what happens is Prospero in Rose&Poe is a man called Prosper Thorne, and he is a retired lawyer who is now in Bellicor County, I believe in Massachusetts. He has dementia. His daughter Miranda goes to Harvard, and she comes back on breaks. His former partner in the law firm he was in Boston is Anthony Coy, and his son is Sebastian Coyle. And Sebastian and Miranda were having relations, but not really. Those are the people from my book that were the cast of characters you just mentioned.
The thing that's different in the actual Tempest is Miranda does end up marrying Antonio's son. but I believe his name is actually Ferdinand.
Is there a Caliban in your book?
Yeah, Caliban is described as a monster. He is the son of a witch who used to own the island on which Prospero and his daughter Miranda were shipwrecked long ago. Prospero now pretty much owns Caliban and treats him like crap, and Caliban's not a very savory character either.
In this book, Poe is Caliban and Rose is his mother. Poe is described as 400 pounds, over 7 feet tall, 6 fingers, 6 toes, each foot, each hand. The village idiot doesn't know how to read, doesn't know how to write, but the sweetest man ever. And he's building a wall for Prosper Thorne. And his mom was pregnant with him when she was 15 or 16. She had to leave school, and she, refused to give him up. She loved him so much, and it was just a mother-son story. And what happens is, when Miranda tells Sebastian that she doesn't want anything to do with him anymore, he basically tries to rape and murder her, but because Poe is nearby, he saves her life. But then, because this huge man is carrying this beat-up, half-dressed woman out of the woods, everyone accuses Poe. So that's the story for that.
Yeah, so actually Caliban attempts to rape Miranda, according to... it's not a scene in The Tempest, but it's part of the backstory that you're given.
Here, Poe has known Miranda since she was a little child and went fishing with her and always helped her out, and she would bring him baked goods, and they were very kind to each other.
That's funny because in The Tempest, Caliban is always described as a fish by all the people that see him for the first time. Basically, the entire complement of the ship that the king is on that's wrecked up on the island. Anybody that sees him compares him to a fish.
Is there a person that quotes scripture in The Tempest?
Not really. Not that I caught.
Because there's a character in Rose&Poe who no one in the town wants to deal with him or get a ride on his horse and carriage buggy, because if he gets you for 1 second, he starts quoting scripture and screaming scripture at you and telling you how damned you are. So I was just wondering if there was a character similar to that.
No. One of the other characters we have is Gonzalo, who's Alonso's advisor, and he's one of the more likable characters, although he has this really weird interaction right at the beginning with the boatswain. Basically, they're in the middle of the storm, and the king's brother, and the usurper Duke of Milan, who's Prospero's brother, who usurped Prospero's dukedom, and Gonzalo are all on the deck of the ship. They demand to speak to the master of the ship, and the boatswain's like, this is not the time to be trying to talk to the master of the ship. We're all trying to keep the ship from sinking in this storm. The king and everybody else goes away, and then Gonzalo's like, well, you look like you have a neck made for the gallows. Kind of implying that, they're going to hang him as soon as they get back to dry land for being so rude to the king. So I kind of didn't like that about Gonzalo, but I don't think they actually end up hanging the guy. So, it's kind of up in the air.
So the character Ariel that is referenced in Ski Weekend, the name is changed to Airmail in Rose&Poe, and he's a courier that just sort of appears out of nowhere.
Right, so Ariel is a sprite, as we all know, but not the drink Sprite. a little fairy, basically, that has amazing powers, and he or she, it's actually ambiguous as to the gender of Ariel, can go around and basically do all the things that Prospero needs to get done to have his elaborate plan come to fruition. Prospero is the biggest troll you've ever met. This guy, this cockamamie plan that he's hatched is just amazing. It all works out. And thanks to Ariel, who can be everywhere at once, seemingly, and is able to turn invisible and just work his or her magic.
Airmail has similar qualities in Rose&Poe, but Prosper Thorne doesn't really have a huge plan in this book. But he is the reason that there is, or he believes, and the book makes it look like the reason there's a storm is because he summons it in his mind.
The funny thing, so Prospero has spent his entire life studying books and learning, which is actually the reason he ended up getting kicked out of his dukedom, because he did not bother with politics too much, and his scheming brother was able to kind of get him exiled. The effect of all of his studies, though, is that he now has these amazing powers. He has acquired all of this knowledge that allows him to control everything. But actually, underneath all that, he's a really old man. He's really, really old, and he's dying. And at the end of the play, he actually casts aside his magical cloak, and he casts aside his magical staff, and he becomes an old man. And he does basically pass on and give up his powers and succumb to old age once his plan succeeds. He just wants wants his daughter to be off their godforsaken island. That seems to be the main gist of his plan. And initially he did want some kind of revenge, but he ends up forgiving everybody and just leaving well enough alone and getting the heck out of Dodge.
I was going to ask you if he had a staff, because in Rose&Poe, Prosper Thorn carves his own walking stick. And he has, he carves, I think, Jesus, he carves Muhammad, carves DNA, he carves just a bunch of things that he thinks are very significant to mankind. And then he conjures the Tempest in his mind, and then the storm comes 4 days and 3 nights and washes away all the bridges, effectively making their town an island.
Yeah, so as far as religion goes, I didn't catch too many Bible references, although there must have been some, obviously. I probably just missed them due to my own ignorance. But what I did catch was a lot of Roman mythology, just tons and tons of references to Roman mythology. And also some other interesting references to like some kind of satanic gods and like witches and stuff like that. Maybe is related to some like apocryphal biblical texts. I'm not sure. Really, really steeped in mythology. One of the reasons I really want to go back and reread and just take a look at all the little notes, because I have an edition that has a bunch of liner notes or whatever. So I need to go back and reread it while taking a look at all that and just get the full effect, because there's some deep, deep writing in here with regards to just references. Not only Roman mythology, but some other stuff that I don't even recognize. But yeah, no DNA or Muhammad or Jesus. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I really liked it. I would give this Shakespearean play a 5. I would give it a 5. It's amazing. I really liked Othello. I think this one might be better than Othello. Othello was the last one I read a couple of years back. This one, I think the themes are a little bit more interesting to me. How would you rate your book?
I'd say probably 4, maybe 4.4 out of 5.
Here's my question. Having read your book, do you now want to go ahead and read or watch The Tempest to see how it compares?
Probably want to watch it, because everything I've learned in school has told me that you need to watch Shakespeare to truly appreciate it. So I'll probably get a recording of a performance.
I'm probably not going to read the book.
How surprising. It's a good book. I'd recommend it. For people, when it comes out in October, I think you should check out the book for sure.
Exactly. Guys, if you've read Ski Weekend and you enjoyed it, if you enjoyed our podcast of Ski Weekend, if you've read The Tempest and you like The Tempest or seen it performed, I think what Anna's saying is you should go check out this book. You might actually like it.
Rose&Poe, as in like Edgar Allan Poe, by Jack Todd. And that's coming out October 17th.
Awesome. Right after this intermission, we're going to get into, and I'm so excited about this. This is definitely the best Fear Street book I have read so far. So excited to be talking about Fear Street, the Prom Queen, right after this intermission.
I was excited when we were first nominated. Now it looks like we've been nominated to die.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Fear Street, the Prom Queen.
Can we talk about prediction accuracy first? How'd you do?
Yeah, you know what? I peeked at the outline, and I can... why don't we start with you? You seem to have done pretty well.
I said that the girl on the cover was running to be prom queen, and I was right. I was pretty off when I said that maybe a prom queen from the past was gonna kill the newly elected or people running to be prom queen.
You're a little bit off, but I think you made up for it.
I said it'd be female victim.
Ding, 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 ding,
female
ding,
murderer.
Ding, 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 ding,
and the
ding,
weapon
ding.
would be a knife.
Wow. You scored a perfect score there. I didn't do so good. I said that main character goes to prom and is elected the prom queen. I mean, the main character did go to prom. What did they forgo prom queens?
Yes.
Yeah. But, you know, if it wasn't for those pesky kids... She might have been. Let's see. She also has weird premonitions about her own death. She does have premonitions about her own death, but she doesn't actually die. But I'm still going to count it. But female murderer, ding, ding, ding. Male victim, and murder weapon. This is, I go so off the rails here. Murder weapon is a poison gas. Flamethrower worked out, but poison gas, not so much. These World War I murder weapon things need to I need to file these away as not anymore. Worked once, not gonna happen again.
Well, you did also say that maybe it'd be carbon monoxide, and that's not a World War I weapon, so...
Yeah.
You've got that.
Oh boy. Yeah, so no, it was definitely a knife. Knife killed them all. Yeah,
no,
so...
not them all.
Oh yeah, somebody got fallen down. And anyway, let's talk about the plot synopsis.
So it's from a first-person point of view, and you don't really get much of that in the Fear Street books. I mean, we've read, 15 books at this point? Most of them have been third-person, I think.
We may have messed this up in a previous review, where we were talking about the first person versus third person, whatever. There was one where we were talking about, like, the point of view. Remember when, in Missing, the book kept switching as seen from the point of view of the brother versus as seen from the point of view of the sister. But it wasn't really first person, per se. Because that one was slightly first person, but also had, like, an omniscient narrator as well, which is third person. So it kind of switched back and forth between first and third person.
Okay, have you
This book is entirely first person, from the point of view of the main character. Definitely very different. And no chapter titles, and I believe there's no prologue. I think it's important to keep in mind, he's branching out, he's trying something new.
What happens is the book starts with the characters discussing a girl's body that was found in Fear Street Woods. Her name was Stacy Alsop. She's from Waynesbridge. She was stabbed 16 times, and her body was removed from Fear Street Woods. It was discovered by a hiker. Someone had been stalking her and keeping track of her and finally ended up killing her, and it's related to another murder of a girl from Durham previous week, and her name is Tina Wales. So the girls are having this conversation. They're super nervous, but you can't get too nervous because it's Prom Queen season.
Yeah, they're all actually getting changed in the locker room while they're talking. One thing that stood out to me is that this scene kind of reveals the characters. So by the way each of the three characters that are introduced at this point react to the murder, you kind of get a feeling for who they are as a person or how they deal with tragic events like this.
All three girls that are introduced get nominated for Prom Queen, in addition to two other people. What's new this year is that the Prom Queen receives a $3,000 scholarship donated by Gary Brandt's father from Brandt Chevrolet. Remember Gary, he's one of Corey's friends.
Right. And by the way, kids, if you don't know, that's $9,565 in today's money. One of these girls definitely might need that money to go to college.
The prom will be held at Halsey Manor House in the Fear Street Woods, not far from where they found the body, and I think it's also where they had the surprise party.
Yeah, and exactly 0 kids are excited about this.
The principal pauses after he says this, waiting for applause, and it is just silence.
Crickets. Absolute crickets. Also, funny thing, principal has like a weird nickname.
They call him the Muppet. I think he's supposed to look like one of those grumpy old Muppets. You know the ones I'm talking about?
From Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the prom queen candidates misses drama rehearsal. The main character goes to check on her. Her room is a wreck. Thinks she's been kidnapped. People start dying, and shit gets real.
Real fast.
So, who's the main character?
The main character is Elizabeth Mcveigh.
She describes herself as having long, light brown curly hair, and her mom describes it as honey brown. She's an only child with super overprotective parents. The few interactions we had with her parents in this book, I thought they were just normal protective, but for Fear Street standards, yes, they are overprotective. She's dating a boy named Kevin McCormick, who just moved to Alabama because his dad, who is a U.S. Army major, got transferred. She does the scenery stuff for her school's musical, and she wants to be a writer.
One of the interesting things, she actually keeps a diary and she does quite a bit of writing, but one of the things she picked up last year from her English teacher, Mr. Mead, is this game that she likes to play with herself, where she likes to look at a person and imagine what they're thinking at that moment. She actually likes to play this game all the time to just sort of pass the time. She feels like it helps her become a better writer. I thought this was a really interesting character feature. It really fleshed her out for me and made her really likable and relatable just because she has that extra little bit of realism to her. Each character's got to have a little something. She's not just like a rando average high school girl. She's got this thing where she likes to get inside people's heads. And I thought that was kind of cool.
It's kind of cool the impact a teacher can have on someone without even realizing it. I mean, Mr. Mead probably tells students every year about this little exercise, and he doesn't know like who takes it to heart and who doesn't.
She calls this Mr. Mead's game, and it comes up a couple times in the book, and I think we're going to get a little bit more into it in the plot. But moving right along.
Elizabeth is actually the first person named Prom Queen nominee.
Oh, right. And she doesn't even see it coming, right? Because she forgot that it was the Prom Queen announcement assembly. So she's not even dressed like super flashy.
She's wearing old jeans, her dad's hoodie or something.
Flannel shirt.
Yeah.
And her hair's still wet from the shower.
That's probably why people nominated her, to be honest. Down to earth kind
Yeah.
of girl. But you know who's not a down to earth kind of girl? Simone Perry, described as having long dark hair. She's tall, dark, dramatic looking. She's a very good actress. She's actually the star of the drama club. She's playing Maria von Trapp in the school's production of Sound of Music. She's also very egocentric, and she's very possessive of her boyfriend.
But I just want to stress that she is described many, many times over as a really good actress, and she does show it.
Except when she's with her boyfriend, then she can't hide, like, her inner psychoticness.
Like total rage. It's kind of reminiscent of that book we just read, right? It was the one before The Knife.
Secret Bedroom?
Secret Bedroom, yeah. Remember the bitchy girl from Secret Bedroom?
I mean, that girl had her issues, but Simone takes it to a special level.
She is actually, like, convinced that her parents hate her.
Yeah, she said that, I could tell my parents that I was nominated for Prom Queen, and they wouldn't care. I'm the lead of the school musical, but they won't come to it. It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, so she feels really neglected. Maybe her parents actually do neglect her. Maybe she's just totally nuts. I'm not sure. But that is an important character trait of hers.
Let's talk about her boyfriend, Justin Stiles. He is considered the best-looking, coolest, most popular guy in the senior class. He's all-state baseball and team captain. And he's also a man whore who has been cheating on Simone with, like, every girl.
Unbelievable.
Like, I get Simone's anger and jealousy, but at the same time, at this point, he's not worth it.
No.
For instance, during the assembly for Prom Queen, he's chatting up Meg Dalton from the surprise party. Right after the assembly, when the Prom Queen girls go out to eat at Pete's Pizza, he's chatting up a girl named Vanessa Hartley, described as a tall, hot-looking blonde. The previous week, he apparently had asked another girl we'll be talking about, Dawn, out. And he asked another girl that we're going to talk about, Rachel, out that previous week as well.
Yep.
He ends up studying with another one of the Prom Queen girls, Alana, 2 days afterwards. 2 weeks after, he's on a movie date with Suki Thomas, and 3 weeks later, he asks Liz out on a date.
Yeah, and Liz is the only girl that turns him down. He's like really freaked out by that.
He doesn't understand how a girl can say no to him.
This guy's no good. Screw him. Moving on.
He's really creepy. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah, forget this guy. Dawn Rogers
is the girl that Justin had asked out the previous week, and she's also one of the girls that Elizabeth, is talking to in the locker room in the beginning of the book.
Yeah, she's like basically one of Liz's best friends.
Is she though?
She kind of is.
You don't need friends like that.
Yeah, I mean Liz like can't seem to figure out why she's friends with her.
Right?
But they are actually really good friends for whatever reason.
It's a very puzzling friendship there.
That happens, right? Sometimes you're just friends with somebody and you just stick by them. That's what friendship is about.
Dawn is the team captain for the girls' tennis team, and they said that she could probably beat some of the guys' tennis players. She's tan with blue eyes. She's described as having like a perma-tan. Like in the dead of winter, she will still have a tan. She has long, wavy blonde hair, gleam, shiny, and golden. She's also super confident and super competitive. She is 100% certain that 4 of the most popular guys in school will ask her to prom, and she'll say yes to all of them. She's super sure that she'll win the Prom Queen thing.
Well, she also got the most applause during the nominations. So she's also basically super duper popular, and she has a track record of succeeding in every single thing she puts her mind to. But she's not humble about it.
Oh, she is the anti-humble.
She is competitive to a fault, and she takes competitive to like a whole nother level where she tries to psych everybody out by telling them how bad she's gonna beat them and how she's gonna just grind them into the dust.
Yes, she's a very nice girl. Next up we have Rachel West, who Justin had asked out the previous week as well. Rachel is described as having red hair, emerald eyes. She lives on Fear Street. She's very shy. She's bitter about being poor, and her being poor comes up so many times. The girls make fun of her for being poor. She's not happy about being poor.
She's pitied for being poor.
She has to work after school, which takes time away from her doing schoolwork. And her grades suffer because of that, so she might not actually go to college. That's pretty tragic.
We find this out from, obviously, like we both said, this book is entirely first person. So this is Liz telling us about how she's pitying this Rachel girl. And
who is one of the girls in the locker room and also one of her best friends.
Yeah, and Rachel is mostly an okay girl. She has her own flaws, obviously, but she's not as raging of an asshole as Dawn is. But nobody's perfect, and obviously neither is Rachel.
She's dating a boy named Gideon Miller until he breaks up with her to date another one of the Prom Queen nominees. This is a very incestuous group.
Yeah, they're all sleeping around with each other's boyfriends.
But Gideon leaves her for Elena Potter, the last of the Prom Queen nominees. She's one of the most popular girls in school, pretty in a delicate, old-fashioned way, row of perfect white teeth. Everything comes easily to her, straight A's. Her family has tons of money so they can buy her whatever she wants, whenever she wants, so she's very happy and friendly.
Yeah, she's super rich.
Drives her dad's Mercedes to school, and Rachel makes an offhand comment about how it doesn't matter if Alana doesn't lock the door, because if it gets stolen, her parents would just buy her a new one the next day.
Yeah, somebody's a little bit bitter about being poor. But Alana just flaunts that wealth, like whatever.
She's not arrogant about it, but
she's not, you know what? She doesn't even realize how rich she is. That's how rich she is. She probably isn't. Also, like, again, not the worst person ever, but she has some mean qualities. She does kind of make fun of Rachel for being poor, which, if you're one of the richest girls in school, like, please don't do that. Why would you do that?
She also ends up stealing Rachel's boyfriend, and she's, quote-unquote, studying with Justin.
Again, coming back to the whole everybody is in a giant, like, sleep around with each other.
Then we have some secondary characters that come up. We have Robbie Baron. He seems to be directing the drama club spring production of The Sound of Music. Is he a student?
Yeah, I think he's a student. He's doing his best, I guess. The production's falling to pieces.
Well, surprise, surprise. And then another character we have...
Well, the leading actress disappears in the beginning of the book.
It doesn't get much better from there.
Nope, it just goes downhill.
Then another character we have is Lucas Brown. He has short brown hair and brown eyes to match, and he usually wears brown. Liz thinks it's really odd because his name is Brown, and he's like all brown hair, brown eyes, brown clothing.
Yeah, except then Liz spends the rest of the book talking about how he wears a maroon jacket. That initial introduction is like, okay, that's funny, and then you ruined it. He keeps wearing maroon thereafter.
His eyes are set a little close together, so he seems cross-eyed. And this is a kind of weird thing. He keeps a diary of gruesome deaths he's heard about on TV because he thinks the stories are funny and it cheers him up.
Yeah, also, it's rumored that when his parents needed to put the family dog to sleep, he took it out back and he hanged it from the tree, you know, so it would die.
It's actually like a character from a book called The Troop that I just read.
R.L. Stine strikes again, influencing the literary giants of today.
She says that he's almost always in a black depression. He has 0 friends. He's on the baseball team. He's a pitcher. He sometimes plays first base. He's super, super creepy and weird and handsy.
Yeah, so he's trying to get with Liz during this, but he's going about it, in my humble opinion, the completely wrong way, by being a total creep, always grabbing her and just
coming up from behind.
Yeah, he's super rapey, and at one point he like hides in her car.
Yeah, well the thing is he hides in her car, and as she's driving, she's already like amped up because people have been murdered and people are missing.
And he grabs her from behind.
And then she ends up like crashing into the railing and spinning her car.
She maintains control a little bit. She just maybe sideswipes the railing a little bit.
Yeah, she sideswipes the railing. I think the back and the front have gone into the railing.
Luckily, she's apparently a really good driver.
Yeah, because she remembers her dad's advice of turning into the
spin
and pumping the brakes.
Yeah.
Instead of apologizing and feeling really bad about it, Lucas just sort of laughs.
Well, actually, the funny thing is, that was him trying to apologize for being creepy. Literally, the guy's like, oh, I was just in here so I could apologize for being so creepy earlier. Meanwhile, you literally just grabbed her from behind while she's driving, and you snuck into her car.
Almost killed her.
And, himself.
He doesn't understand why she wants him out of the car, and she, keeps asking him to leave. He refuses until she finally, kicks him out, and then he still tries to, harass her.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
For a while, she a little bit suspects that he might be the murderer just because he's acting like such a total creeper.
Well, that's because she's never read a Fear Street book, because the creepiest people are never the actual murderers.
Right. I mean, she's never 100% sure that it's him, but she certainly tries to lead the police in that direction during her questioning. She gets questioned quite a few times, doesn't she?
Let's get into the in-depth plot.
Yes, let's.
So what happens is, I mentioned that Simone is the lead of The Sound of Music that the school is putting on. And she doesn't show up to rehearsal one day. They will go through the school looking for her, they can't find her, and they have to cancel rehearsal. So Liz, being the good person that she is, decides that she will go to Simone's to make sure, everything's okay. Mr. and Mrs. Perry open the door, welcome her in, the nicest people ever. Liz goes upstairs, opens the door, and what does she find?
So the whole room is just turned upside down, torn to pieces. Her teddy bear is ripped open. There's a puddle of blood right on the floor in the middle of the room. Can I just say, I really love this scene because it's all going through her mind at that point in time. She's thinking to herself, I should be screaming right now. But she's not screaming. She's freaking out. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't even know to scream. She actually ends up running to the window and she looks outside. And that's when she sees what looks like a man carrying off basically a heavy sack with something stuffed inside that could be basically the size of a body. And that is where she starts screaming her head off. Her parents' reaction when she is quote-unquote kidnapped, although it sure does look like a murder scene in there, they are distraught as all fuck. And you start thinking it seems like they sure do miss her a lot. All the scenes with her parents are just really sad. Well, so broken up.
Right after they find the scene, the police are called, and I think the next day, all her friends are in the Perry's living room, and Simone's mom is making everyone cookies and setting up a cookie and milk platter, and just shaking and sad, and Mr. Perry is just devastated.
Yeah, Liz goes in to help Simone's mom with the cookies and the milk.
When Liz is with her friends and her friends are sad, she'll just say something really stupid to try to make them laugh, hey, you have stinky feet.
Yeah.
And then she's well, I can't tell Mrs. Perry that she has stinky feet.
It's not gonna work. Yeah, and then that was such a real moment for me. A kid is now faced with an adult that is going through this really deep sorrow, and she doesn't know what to do because normally it's the adults that look out for you. You can look out for your friends, but the relationship with an adult is so different and you just don't know what to say. It really got real for me.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
For sure. R.L. Stine's just on top of his craft here. I can't say enough about this book. One thing, I just want to go back 1 second here, and I just want to talk about Mr. Mead's game, because what happens after they're all nominated, at the end of the assembly, school is dismissed, and all of the Prom Queen nominees go to Pete's Pizzeria. They end up getting a table together. It's a fun scene because obviously we know that Dawn and Liz and Rachel are friends, but now they've got Ilana and Simone here. They're maybe a little bit, they all know each other, obviously. They're all popular girls in school, but Ilana and Simone are maybe not quite in that friend group. And so it's a little bit awkward, and the conversation ends up stalling out a couple times. And so Liz just has this genius idea. She's gonna make them play Mr. Mead's game with each other. They have to give a speech during the voting to figure out who the actual queen's going to be. She's like, why don't we try to come up with each other's speeches, right? What would your speech be? Vice versa. Simone goes first because she's very confident as an actress. And she does Dawn, and she does a really great job. She totally skewers Dawn. Completely just...
And Dawn is not one of those people who takes that very well.
No, she doesn't. She's pretend laughing the whole time. So then as a revenge, she tries to do Simone back. But then now it's Simone's turn to not be so happy because Dawn does a pretty crude impression of Simone. So now they're both unhappy, and now Ilana goes, and I mentioned this earlier, she makes fun of how
Rachel is poor.
Yeah, oh my God. I still remember this. This is you guys all know that I'm poor, and I guess I was too poor to even prepare a speech, or something like that. That was her speech that she gave to Rachel. So Rachel's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. But she really just wants to freaking murder Ilana at this point, right? So she does Ilana's and just, of course, right back at her, just make fun of, how rich she is.
What's really funny is, while Simone is doing the first one, Liz realizes what an awful idea this was. And she tries to, put a stop to it as quickly as she can. And they are just not having it.
That train has no brakes.
And she's sitting there horrified, like, oh my god, what have I done?
Yeah. Right off the bat, poisons the relationship between all the Prom Queen nominees. They all hate each other after this, except for Liz.
Yeah, no one actually does Liz because right before someone can do Liz, Simone sees Justin talking to Vanessa, and she's like, oh my god, no, 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 and she runs out.
Yeah, and after she runs out, Dawn and Rachel admit that they both, banged her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And Liz is, horrified, what?
Because Rachel has a boyfriend.
Yeah, her boyfriend who comes over, talks to her, a minute earlier or a minute later.
He's like, oh, I hope you win and get the money so you can take me out to pizza.
Yeah, and she's like, fat chance, or something like that.
Moving the plot on. So Simone's missing, and everyone's, really scared and horrified.
There's an interview with the police. The weird thing that happens, though, is that then they end up catching the killer. This is where stuff starts happening really quickly. They catch the killer, and it's all over the TV. This is the man that murdered all the girls. But what they don't say is that he actually didn't admit to murdering Simone. That same night, the police catch the killer. Rachel calls up Liz.
So Rachel calls Liz and says, you need to come over, and Liz just turns off her brain. Her friend needs help. She rushes out of the house.
Yeah, Len goes dead.
Yeah.
Help, and then dial down.
I mean, she rushes over to Fear Street, even though she's terrified. She runs over a raccoon, and she's horrified about that. Runs up to Rachel's door.
By the way, can I just interject the scene with the raccoon and the guts just splooging out of his stomach? What a graphic, description of a dead raccoon. Attention to detail here.
Yeah, he really enjoyed writing this book. It's pretty obvious. She goes up to the door, and Rachel's mom opens it, and what's going on? She's like, I need to see Rachel.
Oh, and it's a dark and stormy night, too.
It's a horrible thunderstorm. She rushes upstairs, and Rachel tells her, Gideon broke up with me, and Liz is like, you called me over and made it sound like an emergency for this?
Yeah.
But she's a good friend, and they stay a little bit, and turns out that Gideon is leaving Rachel for Ilana.
Yeah, so she's really devastated by this.
But they have a good chat.
Super devastated.
And, Liz tries to cheer her up and says, if my boyfriend can't make it to prom, then maybe we can just go together as friends and it'll be really fun and don't worry about it.
Yep.
She cheers Rachel up a little bit, she leaves. And then, she goes home and her dad says, hey, the murderer's been caught. And they watch on the news, they're following the murderer and why did you do it? Why'd you do it? And he has that creepy Bob smile from Twin Peaks.
Yep.
That's what I was picturing. And they're all really happy. She goes to bed and in the middle of the night, just knock, 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 knock. And her parents and her rush down the stairs. What's going on? It's the police. You were the last to see Rachel alive. She's dead. Apparently, she was stabbed to death in her bedroom after her parents go out for ice cream at 9:45. You were the last to see her alive.
Yeah, it was weird because it's like her dad wanted to cheer her up with ice cream, but then he got so worked up about wanting to get ice cream that he just, when she said she didn't want ice cream, he decided to go anyway without her. It's really sad. I was really sad. It was at this point that I realized it must be Simone.
Why?
Because the cops had searched the Fear Street there was no body, nothing was found, and then the murder scene here was completely different, right? It was different from the serial killer's mode, and not only just that, but he was already apprehended at that point in time. Something about Simone's murder didn't fit the pattern.
She wasn't murdered, she was kidnapped.
It didn't fit the pattern, and so I was like, that's when I started suspecting her.
Or did it? We'll get to that.
I normally am way behind the curve on these books. I'm literally the last person to figure it out. Normally you're very quick on this, but I want to say with this book, I did really begin suspecting her pretty much around this point. And I gotta say something else. Ordinarily, I would be complaining about that. It didn't actually take anything away from the book for me. It really didn't.
But anyways, Rachel is stabbed to death. She has a funeral that not many kids show up to, but she's buried in the new section of Fear Street Cemetery. So I'm assuming there's so many kids dying, they just had to open a whole new section, which is okay then.
And you gotta put all those extra bodies that they have now in the top secret, research wing of the hospital. Where you're gonna bury all that stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of things to bury around this town.
Oh, another thing we missed before Rachel Rachel is brutally murdered. Rachel, Dawn, and Liz actually go on a shopping trip to buy prom dresses and then go see a movie.
And Dawn completely freaks out, by the way, at the dress place. Holy crap. Liz finds basically the most sexy dress in the entire mall.
Yep. It's
and
like
she's like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm gonna win prom queen with this super sexy dress. And Dawn's like, fuck no, that dress is mine.
You know I'll look better in it. Why do you even bother?
Yeah, and then she basically like shoves her aside and buys the dress.
Good friend there.
Yep, it's pretty fucked up.
She got what was coming for her because they go to the movie theater to see the brand new Christian Slater movie, and they run into Justin, who's on a date with Suki Thomas. And by the way, boys don't date Suki Thomas because, you know, she'll help them with their homework, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's got some kind of reputation.
Yes. But anyways, they go see the Christian Slater movie, which is apparently really, really boring. Dawn goes out to use the restroom, and she gets knocked out.
Do we ever find out who knocks her out?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Simone says, remember when there's that one scene?
Why didn't she get to kill her? Did Rachel, walk in on it?
I think Rachel walked in on it, or something might have happened that, made her not stab her to death.
Oh, that's right. And then she walked out of the theater and nobody recognized her.
Yeah, Simone tells her, I was wearing the jacket and the hat, and you walked right by me without even realizing who I was.
Yep, I remember that now.
But anyway, so that's an important thing because there was an attack on Dawn before Rachel was murdered.
Right.
After that, all the prom queen candidates are kind of scared, because it's there was an attack on Dawn, Rachel's dead, Simone's missing, probably dead. Dawn, Liz, and Alana are freaked out.
The other thing that happens is that now that Simone's missing, Dawn actually takes over the leading role in The Sound of Music. Her competitive spirit takes over again. And she's like, I'm going to be the best, whatever the leading role is.
Maria Von Trapp.
Apparently she's okay. She's not the worst part of the play. There you go. Once again, winning at everything. But another funny thing that happens, though, is that she almost gets killed by a prop. Like a sandbag nearly kills her when some rigging is done incorrectly, and Liz pulls a lever and this sandbag almost obliterates Dawn.
Just more evidence that the prom queens are in trouble.
Yeah, or more evidence that Liz is trying to kill everybody because she's somehow present at every murder scene.
Well, yes, because
kidnapping scene or attempted murder.
Well, we haven't talked about Alana yet. She and Liz have this really good conversation about how nervous they are and how they're scared, but they need to persevere.
Yeah, and Alana feels bad about stealing Gideon right before Rachel dies.
And then, they
and
go...
Liz is like, oh, well, you couldn't have known,
Yeah, well, then they go their separate ways. And then when Liz tries to go find Alana again, does she find Alana?
She's found face down in the middle of the stage, left arm bent in a way an arm doesn't bend. We've seen this before, folks. Fingers of the right hand are stretched wide as if she'd been clawing at the stage. Dark red blood splattered several feet across the stage floor. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and of course her face is smashed in and bloody. This is just a horrific death scene.
Yeah, and then the custodian walks in right behind Liz, and he's just like, oh my god, and she's just screaming, call the ambulance, call the ambulance.
But meanwhile, she's the only person there. There is nobody else.
So like you said, at some point the police have to go. She's the one that discovered Simone's room. She's the last person that talked to Rachel. She's the one that discovers Alana. She's at the scene with Dawn being attacked in the movie theater and the sandbag.
All the evidence is stacking up, which is interesting because in a previous Fear Street book, the police begin to suspect somebody that is innocent. And that person figures out that, oh crud, I'm being suspected, aren't I? Liz is so oblivious of this. She doesn't feel worried at all that the police might suspect her of all the murders and kidnappings. Even when they try the whole kind of intimidation thing where they tell her, we know more than you suspect. She's kind of like, okay.
It's Lucas. It's definitely Lucas.
Yeah, he's so creepy. Honestly, if she didn't uncover the true murderer at the end, she would have
Well, let's talk about that. Who's the true murderer? You already mentioned it.
Yeah, Simone.
She staged her own kidnapping, which is totally normal.
I mean, it's not like her parents would care.
She's hiding in the prop room over the stage and ate cafeteria food.
Which is described as, not that good.
Well, when you are staging your own kidnapping, you can't be very choosy, now can you? It's free food. So she's killing everyone who betrayed her by sneaking out with Justin, and she wants to punish him to make him feel the pain she was feeling by killing every girl he ever sneaked out with.
Wow, yeah, blame the girls. Justin's the one that's a total whore in this scenario.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
And she's like, I'm pretty sure he's already figured out what's going on. I was like, did he really? Because he's still macking on Rachel, not Rachel, Liz, super hard hardcore. If he'd figured it out, maybe he wouldn't be doing that. Unless he's so messed up that he has figured it out, and now he's just trying to get girls killed. Except for Suki Thomas. Like, he tries to cover for her. He's like, don't tell anybody I went out with her.
Well, he doesn't want to be known to be as a guy that went out with Suki Thomas. Because she's a girl that has that reputation. So he doesn't want to be known as
ends up saving her life.
But that doesn't make sense because she was at the movie theater.
Yeah, right? What's up with that? This is the first dress rehearsal. It goes horrible, of course. The rehearsal's over, everybody's gone home, and it's just Dawn and Liz staying after her. Liz is like, I just need to clean up one more thing, and Dawn starts walking away. And then when Liz looks back, Dawn is like basically in the fight for her life. She's standing silhouetted in the doorway. She can see a figure wearing that maroon jacket from the baseball team, holding a knife, and Dawn is just fighting the knife off, and it's just like, we've all seen this movie, right? The person is like trying to stab the other person is like pushing back, and it's like the knife is like edging towards the person's chest. So Liz just starts sprinting over there like, oh, I gotta save you.
But it's too late because Dawn gets stabbed in the chest.
Yep. And she gets over there and cue the big reveal.
It's Simone.
Yeah, oh my god.
And Simone gives her speech about punishing Justin by killing all the girls.
And how her parents don't care anyway. And she's just going to make up some story about getting kidnapped and nobody's going to care.
Because she's a good actress, she'll be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
But she needs to kill Liz because not only has she noticed that Justin, went over to Liz's house to be super creepy about, don't tell anyone I was with Suki. And then later, I want to go out with you. And then later on the catwalk, I want to go out with you. So because Simone lives in that loft area, she heard that conversation. She's 100% sure that Liz is one of the girls that's going with Justin, which doesn't make sense because at this point, Justin thinks that Simone's dead, so he's technically allowed to date other girls, but whatever.
Can you imagine if she gets away with this, she just stalks him for the rest of his life and kills every woman he loves, like for years and years to come? And
then she goes, well, I at least need to kill the only person who knows my entire plan.
I mean, okay, that makes sense.
That does make sense. Her plan doesn't make sense.
Her plan would have actually worked if she killed Liz at this point and made it look like a suicide. The police would have just wrapped everything neatly up with a bow and been like, yep, she murdered everybody and then felt bad and killed herself. Done.
Liz really needs to get out of this situation. Because Liz works with the scenery and the props, she pulls the correct lever and drops a sandbag right onto Simone's right foot.
Breaks it, and the knife falls out of her hand or whatever.
And then there's a big fight between Liz and Simone ends up trying to choke her.
Well, what happened was Liz runs over to Dawn to make sure she's okay, and Dawn is actually, thank God, Dawn is actually still alive.
She's like, you're going to be okay. We're going to
get you some help. And then at that point, she gets tackled by Simone, who's just
Simone is just choking her.
Yeah, it's just summoned beast strength, fucking
And Liz is about to pass out, but Dawn gets the knife and stabs Simone right in the leg.
Oh my god, what an amazing scene. This is Surprise Party, where the two girls team up to fight the villain at the end. This is kind of the same thing.
Simone has a knife in her leg, and then Liz jumps over and grabs her by the arms and just holds her.
Then the janitor walks in on this.
He always walks in the weirdest times. He's just like, what is going on?
And she, screams for him to go call 911. And she won't let go of Simone.
Until the police come.
And then she still won't let go. She has to be, talked down, basically. Oh, man. And, meanwhile, Dawn is there, just passed out from, blood loss.
Yeah, but they said the stab wound wasn't that bad. It's one of those, rare stabs that misses everything important in the chest.
Yeah.
It can happen.
It can. Well, because she wins at everything. So, in the end, there are only 2 prom queen candidates left.
And they decide to get rid of the whole prom queen thing and donate the $3,000 to a scholarship fund in the name of Alana and Rachel.
If Lana's parents have any sense of decency, they'll pitch in a couple of million.
Their daughter is dead. She just died. They don't want to think about this right now. Maybe next year.
The scholarship fund in her name. They can spare
They'll deal with it next year.
Yeah.
Right now they need to mourn their daughter's death. I don't think any amount of money will bring her back. Give them a break. Liz's boyfriend comes up from Alabama. They dance. Dawn lets Liz wear that sexy black dress. That's that.
So then they reconcile as friends. Although they went through some shit together. This is one of those things where you really want to see maybe one more chapter where it's suddenly everything that they've gone through dawns on them, and the PTSD. A little bit of that would have been nice. I think. We're getting a little bit into the nitpicks now, actually. And so, why don't you start off?
What kind of blood do you think Simone had put on the floor? Like, where did she get that much blood to make, like, a big red dark puddle? Because they can test human blood. You know, they could test if it's her blood, can they not?
Yeah, they could have. And apparently they didn't, because I bet it wasn't her blood. Although, I mean, she could have maybe cut herself somewhere where it would bleed a lot, but she could also patch it up relatively okay. And then watered it down a little bit and made it seem like a lot of blood. Maybe she got Lucas Brown to kill another dog for her or something.
No, but you can test if it's animal blood or human blood.
Right.
Oh, it is the Shady Side Police Department, right?
Exactly.
Not really expecting the most of them. When Gideon and Rachel break up, Liz is really surprised. Like, they've been going together forever. I thought they'd last. I can't believe that they broke up. They're just such a great couple. Like, I don't understand how this could happen. And it's like, but didn't Rachel just say that she went out with Justin?
Yeah, she just went out with Justin Stiles. Like, he asked her out, she said yes. So she wasn't super faithful to Gideon. Also, doesn't really make that much sense that she's so broken up about them being broken up. She's probably just more mad that it's Alana that stole him, if I have to be honest, because, you know, all these girls are like a little bit petty and mean and kind of just sleeping around with each other's boyfriends. I mentioned this earlier. It really is a thing.
Except for Liz.
Yeah, Liz just seems very likable.
They asked her, like, wouldn't you say yes to Justin? He's, like, the hottest guy in school. She's like, well, I'd say yes to him if he wasn't dating anyone and I wasn't dating anyone. And it's like, yes, that's the normal thing.
Exactly. And also, she wouldn't say yes to him probably now knowing what a total man whore he is.
Well, there's this creepy scene where he's asking her to go out with him and he's, like, walking around the study and he has a letter opener and he looks like he's gonna come and stab her. Like, who asked someone out like that?
Yeah, he was acting super suspicious. That made me reconsider my whole Simone theory. Because he was acting like mad suspicious.
So the Sound of Music thing didn't make sense either.
And so you actually take this from a perspective of somebody who actually worked on a High School Musical production. You were right in there in the pit orchestra and you knew what was going on. You saw the whole thing unfolding. What you're saying is it's not really a realistic depiction of how a High School Musical gets put on.
No, it's not. Did they have any faculty that was doing anything? Because even if it's just a student-run club still need one faculty member to be in charge of it. And then they had the pit orchestra come in. It was like they rehearsed with the pit orchestra on one of their dress rehearsals. You get with your pit orchestra a lot earlier than that.
I think maybe Mr. Santucci was the drama club advisor. Well, he always seemed to be there during the rehearsals, so you figure...
Wasn't it the janitor?
Yeah, Mr. Santucci.
Right, but he was there to ensure cleanup and the such, and to lock the doors after they left.
Also the only member of the staff that was present, and the only adult. Therefore, I can only assume he must have also been the musical advisor.
There was no conductor working with, you know, the person in charge of the drama thing. It was directed by a student. You can have student-run productions, but they did an awful job coordinating because, you know, they had one person doing scenery and props and all that and costume. That doesn't make sense. Shadyside High is supposed to be a very good school, right?
Yes.
We've established that. So let's say it's on par with the high school that I had gone to. I mean, we had a lot of people in backstage stuff. We had a whole club just for stage crew. We had a whole group of people doing props, another group of people doing costumes, another people doing like all the scenery stuff. And then we had the pit orchestra. And we started rehearsing with them a couple of months before the show.
Right, and they're rehearsing with the pit orchestra like a week before the show.
Yeah, that doesn't really work very well. And they said they were working with a pianist before the pit orchestra had come in. I don't get why you would do that.
Yeah, but you know what the funny thing is though? I mean, you have to give R.L. Stine a little bit of credit here because the way he describes that dress rehearsal falling to bits and pieces, I think given your perspective here that you're giving us, it seems very realistic that is exactly what would happen.
It's no question that rehearsal would be utter crap.
And he goes into all the details of exactly how it falls apart, and it's hilarious. He talks about them not being in time with each other, and...
Yeah, the orchestra's too early or too late, and it's like, well, no duh. Like, yes, it's a poorly run production, but it doesn't make sense that it'd be that poorly run. Especially since I assume this is not the first production they've ever done.
Right. You know what's interesting? We had a little bit of an appearance from the teacher who's the advisor for the Outdoor Adventure Club. Is actually present at the school assembly at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, he's the one that glares at them, I think.
Yeah. So where's the teacher that's the advisor for the musical?
Didn't I just ask that?
Yeah, no, I know, but I feel like maybe there's a deeper subplot here. So we've had a lot of students disappearing or getting murdered in this series. Maybe there's a hidden subplot where actually teachers are now disappearing as well. And there's some hints of this. It's not explicitly told to us, right? No student talks to Liz about, I wonder why the musical advisor isn't here today. And Liz doesn't seem to notice it either. And by the way, Liz seems to be single-handedly running the stage crew with no faculty advisor for that either. This could be a deeper aspect of the Fear Street mythos. Now, we could be starting to see some kind of dark conspiracy taking down members of the Fear Street school faculty, the Shadyside High School rather. These could be teachers that actually found out about the plot and how the students are being exploited by the evil corporation. They decided they were gonna, stand up and were disappeared. That could be a possible explanation for what is going on here with this musical production that's getting completely derailed by the incompetence of the students trying to run it on their own now that all of the faculty and staff advisors are gone. Basically, all they have left now is Mr. Santucci, who's too busy picking up the gym to actually lead the production and is possibly unqualified anyway.
I'm glad that you have now brought us into the Fear Street Mythos section.
I mean, there's not too much to talk about. Do you want to mention the hospital again from the previous book, The Knife? The single-handed worst Fear Street book of all time ever, but a lot of mythos happen there. That secret wing of the hospital, the floor where they keep all the dead bodies for the quote-unquote medical school, that there is no medical school here, I'm pretty sure. And now, all of a sudden, they're opening a new section of the cemetery. A lot of bodies need to be buried all of a sudden. Things are afoot. Things are starting to move. The whole pace of events, in terms of the mythos, I feel like is accelerating. Things are going to come to a head pretty soon. But R.L. Stine, what a tease. He keeps these things in the background. There's just hints of it. With the musical production and the lack of staff and faculty helping out. Everything is kind of in the background. The main plot of the book takes center stage. You're left to guess at what's really going on in Shadyside. It's really amazing. There was a couple other things you want to talk about in regards to the mythos. I believe we still have Lisa kicking around the school. She's now the student body president.
Well, she is a senior.
Yeah, or a super senior. I mean, so the prom happens towards the end of the year, right?
Correct. It's May.
So we may see one or two more books in this school year and maybe during the summer. But after this, pretty much, if she's still around.
Well, same with Suki Thomas.
Right. It's not going to make any more sense for them to still be around past this point.
So we're going to see if they entered a Stony Brook-like time warp.
Right. And we already had, when we talked about Haunted had the first time loop that we saw on Fear Street. This could be it, guys, where, remember how a little bit earlier I mentioned that it seems like things are crescendoing and coming to a head? Maybe that is what's going to become implemented here. A giant time loop bubble just encompassing all of Shadyside, and they all just get sucked in and stuck there.
Well, I was thinking, because we had just watched Twin Peaks on Netflix, so my whole thing was, do you remember when the reporters were following the murderer, and he had this really big grin on his face, and he had gray hair or whatever?
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of Bob.
Right.
From Twin Peaks. And I was thinking, well, spoilers for Twin Peaks, guys, but you know how Bob is sort of this weird spirit thing that jumps from by? I was thinking, well, maybe he left the killer guy, went into Simone.
Oh.
So maybe he did try to kidnap Simone, but remember in Fire Walk With Me, you find out that what Leland was trying to do, or what Bob was trying to do, was leave Leland to go into Laura Palmer.
Right,
and because he wasn't able to, that's why he murdered her.
Right.
So maybe in this case, the spirit of whatever, Fear Street Walk With Me, left that murder and went into Simone.
R.L. Stine was probably big Twin Peaks fan.
And then what happened was, if Lisa and Corey and Suki do keep showing up, the entire town of Shadyside hasn't necessarily entered a time warp. It's entered that, that red room.
Yeah.
It's sort of entered that weird world.
Okay, so it could be in another kind of dimension.
Yeah.
And sort of time is kind of standing still for Shadyside.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is really interesting. I mean, right, all of these experiments that the corporation is conducting, they're ramping up, they're becoming greater and greater in scale. And so what is the next logical step? right? We already know that this mineral can have like these weird temporal effects that create time loops. Why not just scale it up to the entire town? I'm already beginning to suspect that this might happen, because why is Lisa still in school? This is probably the last, and we mentioned this in a previous episode, this is probably the last possible school year that she could reasonably still be in Shadyside High. Yes. And so if she doesn't graduate out, then we'll know for sure that what is actually going on here. Or maybe have a suspicion or a thought. I think enough of Fear Street Mythos. 90s things?
Liz and Kevin have to communicate via letter writing because the phone bill was too high and Kevin's dad said no more.
That's definitely a 90s thing. Long distance calls.
And also the movie they go to see in theaters, they're really excited to see it because Christian Slater's in it.
Yeah, that seems pretty 90s.
I mean, the movie he was supposedly in is made up. I definitely searched like General Frick Christian Slater, nothing came up. I don't remember Christian Slater ever being like a heartthrob. It's an earlier part of the 90s than me, but still, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, apparently some kind of spy movie.
It's really funny because we watch Archer, and now he's in Archer as a spy guy.
Oh, really? Who does he play?
Slater.
Oh, what?
He looks just like Christian Slater.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so Slater. Funny.
So I had a good laugh about that.
That is funny. I missed that. This book is like, they just keeps revealing little surprises that make me like it more and more. What were your thoughts while reading this book?
I enjoyed it. I did think that Simone had something to do with it. Justin's weirdness made me like kind of weirded out because it did just sort of come to nothing. Like he was just creepy. Like Lucas is creepy. I kind of accepted as, okay, this guy is just like really weird and something's wrong with him. He ends up getting a prom date, by the way.
Really?
Remember, Liz says, well, he's going out with like Shia something, but she's the weirdest girl in school, so it's, very fitting that they're together. But anyway, so like Lucas's thing I get, but Justin's thing, he was just really over the top. He wasn't rapey. He was a
messed up kid.
He was creepy. He was like really gonna murder her for saying no to him.
Yeah, I don't know what even was going on through his mind.
And she was really lucky that her dad like came downstairs and went, what is going on? And then he was asking Justin to leave, and Justin just sort of looked at him like he was not going to walk out of the house, and her dad's just like, you need to leave right now.
Yeah, good on her dad for being the first actual decent parent in Shadyside.
So I figured Simone probably disappeared herself, but I couldn't really figure out like why she was killing everyone. I was like, well, is it for the prom queen money thing? But then it's like when the whole thing about like I need to punish Justin. First I was like, well, why is it the girl's fault? And second of all, the main girls that he was with weren't the prom queen girls. Like there was that Vanessa girl, there was Suki Thomas, but she saw him. She must have seen him with Suki Thomas because they were in the movie theater. She was in the movie theater. And the Meg Dalton thing.
She's just crazy. Simone's just nuts.
Like, she only went for the prom queen girls for some reason. So I was just like, I guess her reasoning doesn't make sense, but she is a little crazy.
I definitely suspected her from very early on, and I also kind of suspected her motive. But that didn't take anything away from this book for me. It was just really well written. I think R.L. Stine did a great job with this book. Everything was on point. Maybe he did it like a second draft or something. I don't know. I don't really have much to add. I'm pretty sure I've been gushing about this book the entire time that we've been recording this podcast. I was very pleasantly surprised. Been reading a lot of Fear Street books this year. I've been rating them all on my regular Goodreads scale, and they've all been getting 1s. A couple of them got 2s. The last one we rated got a 0, and it made me despair. I was really thinking, how am I going to go on recording this podcast with you, reading this kind of drivel? It was really disheartening.
Well, how many murdered prom queens did you want to give this book?
Yeah, so, big surprise, guys. I'm going to give it exactly 3.0 murdered prom queens out of 5, which is, by the way, more than Simone managed to get. What a great book. And by the way, just to explain my rating, that means that I like the book. And while I would not recommend this book to everybody, I would recommend it to any fan of Fear Street or R.L. Stine or somebody that reads like the young adult type of books. I would wholeheartedly recommend this. It's probably an outstanding example of the genre, although I haven't read that many books in this genre so far of the Fear Street books. It is head and shoulders the best, in my humble opinion. And how many murdered prom queens would you give this one?
Well, I give everything a Fear Street scale. I'll give it probably a 4.
Wow.
Murdered prom queens out of 5.
Dang, that's your highest rating so far, right?
I believe so, yes. So next up for us will be a Fear Street Super Chiller book. A very astute listener has told us that we've actually missed some books in the chronology of Fear Street. So this book was actually published in 1991, while the books that we've been talking about were published in 1992. So we feel like we need to go back a little bit and hit up the two super chillers that we've missed. So first up is Fear Street Super Chiller Party Summer. There's no vacation from the terrors of Fear Street. So the cover has two girls. They're on a beach. There's what I assume Freddy Krueger's shadow standing over them. And they look horrified. One girl looks like she's gonna cry. The other one looks like she's seen the most disgusting thing ever. And Freddy Krueger is sort of standing over them. I would say that there's no vacation from the terrors of Fear Street. I don't think they're in Shadyside. It's probably one of those we've left Shadyside type books. They're on a beach somewhere. I don't know. I'm going to assume the Northeast because that's where they go skiing. I'll assume they're like at a Northeast coastal beach.
Okay.
They're on vacation. Maybe a family house. Maybe someone has a family house there, brought some friends. I'll assume it's a male murderer, the male victim, and I'll say the weapon is a knife.
All right, pass over the book. All right, what do we got here? Whew, Fear Street Super Chiller, our first one. Oh, wow, they're just relaxing on a beach here. Okay, so I'm going to guess it's going to be... I don't think it's in Northeast. I think you're wrong about that. This has got to be like a Florida vacation. I'm thinking it looks really warm and sunny here. So Florida, maybe California, definitely somewhere. They're catching some sun somewhere. It's not in the Northeast for sure. Just two girls relaxing. I'm going to guess they're really close friends. I'm not sure how these high school students managed to swing a Florida vacation for the summer, but...
Well, obviously it's a rich person, right?
Okay, yeah. So maybe one of their parents is rich or something. They're gone for like the week. They're out by themselves. Maybe there's I bet there's minimal parental supervision. Probably, I'm guessing there's a stalker that follows them from Shadyside to their vacation. Gender, geez, I'm just gonna guess female just to be different from you. Let's go for strangulation again. Go back to that well and see what we can bring up. That's gonna be my guess for now. I'm really excited about this one. This is actually...
Did you say the murderer is a female and the murder victim as
well?
Oh,
the murder victim? Let's go with female. Female. I just wanted to mention, for those of you who don't know, the Super Chillers are a little bit longer. This one is 215 pages long. I'm expecting a little bit more here from R.L. Stine. Right, he's got to kick it up a notch. He's not going to get a 3.0 from me just by repeating his performance from the previous book. With a longer book, I really do expect more of those plot points to get tied up neatly, fewer plot holes. There's only so much you can do with 165 pages or whatever. I do give leeway there. On a book like this with 250, this is basically a full-length novel at this point. I do expect a little bit more here. I am prepared to be disappointed.
Well, as long as you're prepared.
All right. Well, guys, it's been a really great episode. I personally was really excited to record this one just because what a great book. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to another thrilling episode of RetRead Podcast.
If you like what you hear, give us a shout out.
If not, let us know why in the comments.
Don't forget to rate, review, comment, share, like, and subscribe.
You can follow us at RetRead Podcast on Twitter and Facebook.
Or send suggestions or fan mail to red.read.podcast@gmail.com.
Until next time.
Peace!